Well, welcome back to another edition of the Real Life Finance Podcast. I am your host, Ben Joergens, and I'm excited today because we're welcomed by a newer member of the OMB family, Tim Burke, who is our president and COO. So, Tim, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you, and it's been a great journey to add you on to leadership here at the bank. So what I thought we'd do for our listeners and followers is to really start just giving us a little introduction of who you are and kind of what you do here at Old National as well.
Happy to. Well, great to be here. Thanks for having me. Tim Burke, been here coming up on 5 months now. Role as president and COO of the organization, and having a ton of fun so far.
Excellent. And so a little bit of your background from your career standpoint, if you don't mind to share kind of what led you to become the COO here at Old National and kind of what you've done a little bit in the past as well.
For sure. Originally from Pittsburgh, and I went to college at John Carroll University in Cleveland, Ohio. And so started out in Cleveland working for National City Bank. So I went through what was called a corporate development training program. So started basically as a credit analyst, which I've told many people getting started in banking. I think it's a great place to start because you get to understand different industries. You get to understand how to read and analyze financial statements. And it's just a great core fundamental area, I think, to start in banking. So started there.
I wish I would have done more in that area, Tim, because I was a commercial RM for a while, but I didn't have that solid credit background. I'm like, that would have helped me a little bit more.
Sure.
But I think it's a great spot to be in for sure.
It is, yeah. And you're working also with people your age, right from undergrad, and it's a program a lot of banks used to have. Many don't have them anymore, but, so did that for 2.5, 3 years and became a portfolio manager. And from there, got into commercial banking and was a commercial banker as a relationship manager and then a player coach, managing director, and eventually became a market president. Relocated for 2 years down to West Palm Beach, Florida, which was a ton of fun.
Yeah.
So it was interesting timing. It was 07, 09. So think financial crisis, starting in a market where 90% of the market, the economy in Florida is based in real estate.
Yes.
And that was a big crisis. And so learned a ton there. So I was with National City for 11 years. PNC had acquired National City, was looking to go back to Northeast Ohio, so joined a smaller regional bank called First Merit Bank, headquartered in Akron, Ohio, spent 7.5 years there. And that's really where I got to understand kind of community banking and managed teams in business banking, treasury management, commercial real estate, commercial banking. So really got a wider span of kind of depth of different types of banking, which was very important in my career development. Joined KeyBank and was at KeyBank for 8.5 years, market president, and then really regional responsibilities for commercial and wealth management, opened up some new markets, and at one point in time also had the Eastern Coast, so had 21 different markets at the time. So
That's
a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, we're going to be talking a lot about, helping with as small business bank or, what someone would work on with a potential client of starting a business. And, and me being in the former RM world, it's a thing that a lot of people don't know kind of, what do I need to talk to a banker about? What do I need to bring to the table? And how do I become successful? So we're going to dive into some of those questions, which I think your expertise will help a lot. So to kind of get started, as we think about, younger entrepreneurs, from what I've read, we're going to be seeing the most entrepreneurs that we've ever seen in the coming years. And how do they grow into financial independence, right? So banks may seem a little bit intimidating or uncomfortable when people are starting out. So in your opinion, Tim, what steps do you think people can take to feel more, confident and even more comfortable as they begin to build just a banking relationship in general?
Sure. Well, I'm a big believer that preparation breeds confidence. Yeah. And, whether it's going to the doctor for a first time, right, which can be intimidating, and you think about that process of, what do I want to be prepared for? And, banking's the same way. I think the more prepared you come into that discussion, the better. But at the same time, I think that You can't think that I have to be over-prepared and have everything figured out until I make that call, right? Sometimes you just have to say, this is going to be good enough for that first call and know that you're going to learn and grow through every discussion you have. And so I think you want to be prepared, you want to be thoughtful, you want to have a plan, but at the same time, you also can't be afraid to make the leap.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And so, and the importance of building the relationship with their banker. For me, when I was a commercial RM, it's I really wanted to get to know the individual first and learn about their company. And business owners love talking about their company. So how important is it to have that face? Because we do get digital, right? I mean, banking is digital world now. But how important do you see that face-to-face and relationship building being an important part of that all relationship together with the bank?
I think it's absolutely critical.
Yeah.
And, it's whether it's your bank, and you're going to have other partnerships that are equally as important, right? Whether it's the attorney, whether it's your accountant, whether it's your insurance provider. I think putting really good partners around you from the beginning is very, very important. And so having a plan, having good partners, but you mentioned it, relationship banking, right? I mean, digital, I think, and especially for an entrepreneur, understanding the digital tools are important, but really building that relationship with somebody that you like, that you trust, that you can learn from, and that you can be honest with.
Yes.
I think those are really important skills and attributes you want to look for in a banker.
Yeah, I agree. And, some banks may, offer great rates or something. But I think having the value and the trust, as you mentioned, with your banker is something good. You need to be able to tell them everything and have them be honest with you. And when you build that, it just makes the whole lifespan of the relationship that much better.
Completely. I think transparency from the beginning of this is what I'm looking to do.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how to get there. I need your help with that. But being transparent with who you are, where you want to go, what you don't know. I think that's something very important. A lot of people that first meeting with a bank, they say to themselves, well, I can't admit that I don't know this. Or, there's a lot of acronyms in banking. And, if you don't know what something means, just being able to call a timeout and say, could you explain what that means? I think that's important.
Well, even our name's an acronym, right? With OMB. So, but that is a very good point, Tim, because, I teach financial ed for a living to all different backgrounds, age groups, et cetera. But a lot of people are hesitant to just say, I don't understand this. They may feel like it's a dumb question. I always say, if it's regarding your money and the longevity of your lifetime of planning, it's okay to ask, because if you have that question, someone else probably does too.
And your banker loves to hear that you don't have all the answers because it gives them the confidence to know this isn't somebody that's going to fake it till they make it. I mean, you have to do that to a degree early on, but once you're to the point where you're engaging a banker, building that trust, part of that building that trust is admitting what you don't know.
Yes.
It's interesting you brought up financial literacy. I taught for a couple of years at a university at Cleveland State, financial management class. Mm-hmm. And so I learned a lot from that process of, what's important to students, what's important to bankers, and that financial literacy piece is such a critical component that we're just missing across the country in many pockets.
We really are. And, we're thankful. And I know here in Indiana, I think 2028, it'll be a required course to take personal finance before you graduate.
Yes.
So we're making strides. We're getting there. It's taking a little longer than we anticipated, but that is the goal. And I think the better you can manage your personal money is going to translate into the business side as well. So let's think about, you're an entrepreneur. It's the first meeting as an entrepreneur. What kind of things should they bring or questions they might ask to really make the most of that first conversation with a banker?
The first thing is bring a plan. Have a plan, right? It doesn't need to be a 5-year projection, but just have a plan that shows the banker that A, you have a vision, B, you've thought about what are the components that you need, and C, you have a good understanding of where you want to go.
Yeah.
And I think when you sit down with your banker, and there are some great resources out there, locally in Indiana, but across national programs that'll help you build, the SBA can help you build that business plan. So leverage the resources you have to put together a plan. And like I said, you don't have to have it all figured out, but just have a vision, have a strategy, and know where you want to take the business.
I think that is very key. And when I got started in the world of commercial banking, I remember one of the first people I talked to came into me. He had lost his job. He's like, Ben, I want to start a business. And I was like, well, what do you want to do? He's like, I'm not sure what's popular now. And I'm like, oh, no. Right? He's like, maybe I'll think about mowing lawns. I was like, do you like to? He's like, not really. I was like, but that's the importance of having a plan. And we teach young entrepreneurs in middle school and high school. And we've done this at some schools as we'll create an entrepreneurship fair at a club where they create a product or a service, but they learn the business plan. They learn the elevator pitch. They learn these things. And I think having that plan is so key, because the more we know about you, more we can help you, right? Mm-hmm. Perfect. So in the area of financial education, I know you've taught financial literacy and things. How successful is the financial education in building a successful business? And are there any basics that you would recommend an entrepreneur to really know before starting that?
For sure. I would just, before I answer that, I would go back to when you're meeting with that banker the first time, you should have a list of items that are important for you because there's a lot of banks out there, right? So you want to make that personal connection. You want to have a list of questions that are important to you that you want the banker to be able to answer. And one of those should be, what's the value differentiation that you're bringing as a banker and that the organization you work for brings? I mean, I know our team at Old National, that's something we're very passionate about, the value that we deliver on a very specific daily perspective of being able to deliver differentiated value to our customers. So I think asking what that means of your banker is important.
Absolutely.
But from a financial literacy perspective, coming in and first thing I would say is understanding a budget, right? So it can be as simple as top line revenue, bottom line expenses. And what, that difference is going to be what you make or what you lose. So having a good understanding for what your revenue drivers are, what the market is like. So where are the opportunities? What are you looking to take advantage of? Understanding the scalability of your business. So is this something that is going to be small and can become extremely large, or is it always going to be small and local and regional, and that's part of the differentiation? But having a vision, having a budget, and then understanding the drivers. And then the one other thing I would say, if you really want to impress a banker, is thinking through different scenarios. So let's say interest rates, as we saw a big, change in interest rates over the last couple of years. How does that impact what you can afford from a debt perspective?
Yes.
What happens if revenue goes down by 20% because you have one large customer that's 20% of your business? So the more you think about those scenarios that can impact your business and you're upfront about those, that really builds that trust with the banker.
Yeah, that's a great point. And, I teach a lot. Budgeting is, I think, regardless of what people make, budgeting is key, regardless. I mean, seems like the more people make, the more they spend, and it's that cost of lifestyle adjustment, right? But I think when I work with families, I always say even treat your family budget like a business, right? You're making money, you have expenses, and if your net is negative, you got to find a way to either make more money or cut the expenses. And I think in the business side, obviously, it's the same way. And it's easier in a business to cut expenses, but I think we get so attached to things that we, as an individual, spend money on that we justify as a need when it's in reality a want. But if we can get a good grip on that, how much do you see that translating into helping the business be more successful when our own personal finances are successful as well?
Totally. And I think any bank is going to start there, right? I mean, if you're a new entrepreneur and you're looking for money, typically that first loan is going to be based on how your personal standings are. So having good personal credit is very important.
Absolutely. So we've talked about some of the things that we should do. What do you see as some common mistakes that young entrepreneurs make and maybe things they can do to avoid them?
Well, one thing would be you come in a lot of times, the old joke that, the best time to ask for a loan from a bank is when you don't need it, right? So ask for the umbrella when it's not raining so that you have it when it does rain. So I would say one mistake that can happen is not planning for that what-if scenario. So you may have modeled what it could look like, but try to get the loan, try to get the line of credit, get some, save some extra equities, have a partner that you feel like you could call in a pinch, have a plan for that rainy day. And because if it happens and now you're reacting to it, a lot of times you're not going to get the right answer or the right structure versus doing it in advance. So one thing I would say is try to get that in advance.
And I think you touched upon it too, is having a mentor is great. And what I found out, at least here in the markets that we serve, is there's a lot of retired executives, business owners that love to help people. And I think reaching out to your local chamber or whoever it might be, getting connected with somebody that's done this before, I think is such a valuable lesson that people are afraid to ask for that help.
And we have a lot of bankers at Old National that are entrepreneurs themselves or have, run businesses or their family owns a business. So, that's something that we look for in our team are people that understand what our clients are going through. And, having a experience running a business or, it's in your family, you can leverage those experiences, those partnerships, those relationships are important.
I'm going to take a spin here too, because I think one thing that I've seen people struggle with is, hey, I'm going to start a new business. I'm going to quit my job where I had my insurance and I had my benefits and all this stuff, and I'm going to put everything in this new business. To me, it seems more advantageous or successful to say, while you're beginning that business, have your main source of income with your benefits, work hard at that job, Because running a business is no joke. It's a lot of hours. But do you think that's an important piece to slowly get into that new business versus going full steam ahead? Because if things don't go well, then you've lost that, that stable income benefits piece coming in.
I totally agree. And I'll give you another reason why I think that's a very smart move is you have a business plan. Again, most of that first analysis from a bank is going to be on you personally. Yeah. And I can tell you many, many times I've met with entrepreneurs and you have one that has a stable job, stable source of income, and they can cover the loan based on the current job they have. That's a lot easier of a request than one that I just quit my job. I'm throwing everything I have into this. I don't have any income I can show you. That's a harder one to get comfortable with. Yeah. Now, the second part of that, though, I think is a very important question, which is, as the business is growing, when do you decide to go all in? Because I can tell you that we've banked a lot of early entrepreneurs in knowing when to go all in and kind of when to say this is big enough now and the opportunity is such. Because the one thing that it is hard to do is grow a business while having a full-time job that's still taking a lot of your time. So I think it's important early on. And then you have to constantly challenge yourself, which is now the time to go part-time.
Absolutely.
Now the time to go all in.
Absolutely. No, I think those are really good pieces of advice. So let's say you're new to managing money in general. The first step to really build confidence without getting overwhelmed by, there's a lot of advice out there, Tim, right?
Sure.
So what do you think? Because, curiosity can become people's biggest advantage and things like that. But if you're new to this, what do you think is the first step to really build that confidence?
I think keep it simple.
I do too.
Keep it as easy as you can. I mean, look Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett. I mean, you listen to their principles. There's nothing, overly complicated about it, right? It's have a model. I just read something last night where if you have a model and that model's simple and you have the discipline to stick to that model, it's going to outperform most, changing. And I've got 28 indicators. I think it's just keeping it simple. And you build confidence, as I said earlier, by being prepared. And you're prepared by doing the data, putting the time in, and really understanding what your goals are. Yeah. So if you have clarity on where you want to go and you have a good plan on how you're going to get there, it's just that discipline of staying the course.
How important do you think it is to be careful to not live bigger than what it might portray at the beginning of a business? Because we never know what can happen.
Sure. No, it's something that I think everybody has to guard against. Yeah. And I think why it's important when you're an entrepreneur, typically you're going to need equity to help grow. You're going to need equity if there's a rainy day. You're always looking for capital. Yeah. And the best entrepreneurs that have been able to scale their business the quickest are ones that are constantly reinvesting in their business.
100%.
And you can't reinvest in your business at the same time you're buying your second home and your fourth car, right? Yeah. I mean, it's choices. And I think if you're looking for a lifestyle business, that's one thing, right? So I'm going to just work to be able to afford the growing lifestyle that I have. Most entrepreneurs I've met, they're very clear on their why. Yeah. And if you have a real passion for what that why is, you've got to reinvest in the business. Agreed. And I think that's something your bank is going to want to see as well.
I 100% agree. So let's get to the personal side of Tim. I mean, you have 4 young adult boys, right? And hopefully they're settling into some of the ones that are here, locally doing well. What kind of foundational topics should people focus on when kind of beginning their journey towards financial independence? So as they grow up and prepare, I know they're starting to teach some financial literacy classes in the school.
They're doing a great job in Indiana. I mean, I can tell you that the classes my kids in high school have been very rewarding and very helpful on the financial literacy side. So I like where the curriculum is going and the changes they've made.
Yes, absolutely.
But, as far as items that I think are important, the first one, I think the generation before mine, when I was growing up, money was taboo, right? You didn't talk about money. You didn't talk about it at the dinner table and, you really didn't talk about it with friends. And I think we've changed that, with everything being digital and, different forms of currency with crypto and just with the internet. I think it's a lot more, kids are seeing whether you're going to talk about it or not, they're forming their own opinion about money. And I think it's our jobs as stewards and parents and, family members to help educate. And I think the best way to do that is allow them some freedom and flexibility. So, we have some great programs and cards and options at Old National where you can get a savings account early on. You can get a debit card.
Yes.
There's a lot of different ways that you can allow kids to experiment with money and learn without having, a lot of risk.
Yes.
I think that's important.
I do too, Tim. And, I've got 4 kids from 14, 10, 9, and 5. And we try to teach them some certain things as well. My daughter, my oldest one, we're going to add her as an authorized user on a credit card so she can start building credit. But it's going to prompt those discussions, right? And when we go out, they earn money through birthdays, Christmas. And I don't tell them what to do with it. They learn the hard way sometimes by blowing it on stuff they don't need. They're like, Dad, I'm out of money. I'm like, sorry. If I run out, nobody's just going to say, Ben, here's more money, right? So teaching those life lessons, and it's okay to talk about money. And, I've even heard now that when kids get, to that dating phase, that credit is a now discussion. Like when they're dating, goes, I don't want to go into a ton of debt, those kind of things. So it's important to have these discussions so they're not finding out the hard way, right?
Yes. And I think, a lot of kids nowadays, they want to experiment with it. And I think giving them, whether it's a credit card, giving them a debit card, giving them an allowance and walking through, hey, also it's a great lesson on if you invest part of that, compounding and interest and what that can do over time. And, I think most entrepreneurs would say the earlier you start saving and investing, the better off you're going to be.
My son, Jace, he's 10, and a couple of years ago, he said, Dad, I'm glad you opened me a Kid Start savings account, but I'm ready to start earning some compounding interest. I'm like, where'd you hear this from? He was like 8, and he's like, YouTube, Dad. I'm like, so kids they're wanting to learn, so let's teach them, right? And then, so for those followers that don't know this, we teach these kind of lessons at schools, and for employers, we do it everywhere. So if we can help, you can go to our website on oldnational.com to help book a class. So as we wrap up, Tim, we like to do a little lightning round questions. We want to get to know some things about you personally, if that's all right.
Sure.
So question number 1 is, what would you say is the most valuable lesson that you've learned in your career life so far?
I would say the importance of building a network. And we talked a lot today about relationships.
Yeah.
And, if there's one thing that I'm constantly telling my boys, it's the importance of building strong relationships and building a good network now, surrounding yourself with people that are going to challenge you, that you're going to learn from, and knowing that there's so many impressive people. And it's just incredible. Every day we're talking to kids on campuses and in interviews that are incredibly impressive. And what can differentiate you from the next person is who is that network? Who are you learning from? Who are the mentors that you have that are challenging you? So I think that's an important thing that I talk a lot about in our family is
and keep expanding that network, right?
All the time.
Absolutely.
Diversity in your network is important.
Yes. Now the next question is a little bit interesting. We've had a variety of answers. So asking you, Tim, if you could master any skill, what would you say it would be and why?
I would say 2. I would say a backhand in tennis.
Okay.
So I love playing tennis, and I got a cut on my backhand. If I could, get the Federer backhand where it's, the whip
Top
it down
spin
the line, you got it.
Absolutely.
So that would be a great skill that I would put to use very soon. On the professional side, I think it's having the patience to be a fantastic listener all the time. So if I could have the patience to always be a great listener, something I try to do very intentionally, but if I had the skill where I did that every single time, because the more you listen, the more good questions you ask, the more you learn. And I think the more you learn and the more you ask good questions, the stronger the relationships you build. And back to that network being very important. Best way to build a good network is to quickly build trust. You can quickly build trust by being a good listener.
I think that's so an active listening, right, too? Because that's one thing I've been trying to work on is, and a lot of people are they're wanting to get their next word in. So listen
you can actively.
See it.
You can see in people's eyes.
So I like that. Okay, so tennis, I love it. I played tennis in high school here in Evansville and love it. So it may be the same answer. What's your go-to activity or hobby when you need to just wind down?
Yeah, I love tennis, love golf, so, I'm competitive. So I like that competitive angle where, with tennis, it's you and, someone on the other side of the net. And as long as you're playing somebody about as good or as bad as you are, it's a good workout, which also is a nice benefit. So I would say tennis, golf. I love a good book, so any of those.
Fantastic. Do you ever play pickleball?
Not yet.
I tried.
I'm fighting it.
Yeah.
So I'm fighting it for at least a few more years.
So last question, Tim. in your life, who would you say that over the years has been your most influential person that that's been in your life?
I had two wonderful parents raised in a middle class, family, and learned a tremendous amount from both of my parents. But I would say my wife, kind of a lifelong partner, a best friend, somebody we share obviously 4 kids and a wonderful life with. But having somebody that challenges you, somebody that always has your back, somebody that will relocate to a new state to support you and to support your dreams, I think is something very important. So whether it's a spouse, whether it's having somebody that you can rely on for anything in life, I think is really important.
I think it's key, and hopefully Indiana's been welcoming and warming to you. And Tim, I can't thank you enough as president and COO to be a guest on the show.
Yeah.
Really appreciate your insight and advice, and really glad you could be here today.
Well, thank you, because I'll tell you what, this podcast and getting the word out about financial literacy and helping entrepreneurs, and it's core of who we are, is to give back to our community. And what you're doing with this podcast and the show, I think, is a great example of different ways we find in the community to give back and differentiate ourselves. So thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. And so for our followers and listeners, we do this every day. So come, let us know. We can do these classes for you. But as Tim pointed out, if you're an entrepreneur and you're looking for a banker, come see somebody. Like you said, talk to multiple people. Hopefully that person is at Old National, but we would love the opportunity to talk to them and help them, grow their business and help them along their journey. So
absolutely.
Thank you again, Tim.
Appreciate it.
All right.